I literally hurt my thumbs trying to get through one mini stage. And like I've got a lifetime of gamer thumbs that shouldn't happen. I literally was in pain by the time I finished that first stage trying to force getting the shots that I needed.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 355.
355. That's so many. That's almost a year worth of episodes. If we had recorded a single episode every single day,
oh God,
we would have been going for a year straight.
Which maybe we should do that. Instead of playing a game
tomorrow
for a week, should we play a game for a day?
For less than a day? I mean, no.
We could churn out so many more episodes at that rate.
Right.
Lower quality.
The annual Game Awards have announced their Game of the Year nominees, and I wanted to give you the titles of the games and then get your quick thoughts on those, and then your vote for which should win.
I like this. It's like
Okay.
the Oscars.
It might be hard. There were some big ones this year.
No, there weren't.
Good commentary. A Plague Tale Requiem.
Okay.
Okay, great commentary. Continuing on. Don't know if y'all got how my setup was. This is going really well so far. Elden Ring.
We'll win.
Don't say anything, Kenny.
Oh.
I thought you were listing all of them first.
No, that's why I told you I'm going to give you the name.
Fine.
Get your quick thoughts.
Quick thoughts on Plague Tale. Don't know what it is.
Yes, you
Same.
do. I've told. Yes, both of y'all do. Y'all are the worst people I know.
Kitty,
honestly.
he's never mentioned this rat game.
Did I tell you about this? You just said you know what it is.
I know what it is. Yeah.
Wait, there's an actual rat? This is like Ratatouille?
Yes, it's just like Ratatouille, and I don't know why it's on this list.
Y'all make me want to do painful things to my body.
Then you need help.
A Plague Tale, the original, the first game, is the game that my wife and I played a few months back, and it's set in historical France during the Black Plague, and you are a sister and your brother, and he has the ability to control some of the rats.
It's like a Telltale kind of game, like a storytelling interaction kind of game.
No, it's more of an action game.
Okay.
Game.
You did tell us about it. I didn't recognize the title.
Well, this is
I'm not familiar.
This
like
is the
Nolan.
sequel that just came out, and it's supposedly really good. So, Elden Ring, you've never heard of it. God of War Ragnarok.
Right.
Plan to play it before the year is up, actually. I don't know if I'll be able to sneak in it, but that's what I plan on.
I actually revoke it's obvious it's going to be Elden Ring. Well, this game's gotten a lot of hype.
I don't want your vote until the end, but But
you do want my commentary. Make up your mind.
It has gotten. Can y'all just
win.
do exactly what I want y'all to do?
No,
please?
of course not.
Ragnarok, though, I've heard more complaints about it than I did for the 2018 prequel to this, so it's interesting.
Okay.
Horizon Forbidden West.
I tried to.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I think people like that one better than the first one.
Do they?
I heard that from a friend of mine that adored the first one, but maybe that's not public opinion.
Well, I ain't playing it.
I tried to play the first one. I couldn't. I don't know.
What might seem like an outlier, Stray.
I'm not
an
surprised
outlier.
by that, actually. I see what you mean by it being an outlier.
It's an indie game.
It's an indie game,
Sure.
and they always sneak. Lately, though, they're like throwing in big indie releases. Like they put in Hades a couple years ago.
Yeah, but it also got hype upon hype.
It did.
Like,
I think it's
it's
dumb.
not surprising this made the list. People made so much noise about it.
As it released, and then it went silent as people played it. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if it lived
Sure.
up. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that one to be in there.
That's
at
a
all.
surprise to many people.
Okay. I'm sure fans are happy about that one.
That's the list. A list of,
That's a solid list. I'm not going to lie.
Relatively, solid titles.
I don't have a lot of trash talk.
Which one do you think should win? Which one do you think is going to win?
Okay. I think Elden Ring should win. I'm kind of with what Kenny said earlier. I don't know if it will with Ragnarok being in that list. I think if Ragnarok wins, it will be a very big upset because Elden Ring, let's be honest, first of all, it's a 10 out of 10 game, and it had much more cultural impact than Ragnarok has been having. If you just look at how many people entered into the Soulsverse that had never touched a game, but Elden Ring was the entry point. Like the jokes and the memes around it and the anticipation and it actually being good, it has to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kenny.
Yeah, if I was picking which I wanted to win, I would say Stray just for the lulz. If I had to put money on it, absolutely, I would say Elden Ring, and probably it actually deserves it the most, for all the reasons Nolan said. But I do think that God of War has a chance of coming in and,
I'm worried about that,
and being an upset. And if it did, I don't know. From what I've heard, I haven't played it. Retro video gamer. I don't know if it would be completely unjustified.
I know,
it's
and that's what
definitely more
annoys me.
recently on people's minds.
It's like I can't be like, dude, that game sucks. Why did it win? Because it obviously doesn't suck. But come on. Anyways, Dustin, who do you got?
Watch Xenoblade Chronicles win, and everyone goes, "What?"
It's not gonna win.
Elden Ring is gonna win. Elden Ring is going to win. Should win. Although I haven't played it, but I mean it. I don't think it revolutionized anything, but I mean it came out on the scene it took control, and rightfully so. I mean it's a beast of a game, so. I think that will win. The only game that I don't think should be up there, I mean, Xenoblade Chronicle 3, I could give or take. Stray, I think it shouldn't be up there. It's like a cat.
I kind of think that too.
It's finding itself in places that it doesn't belong, which is, but it's fun. It's in almost every single category, which is kind of silly. I think it's going to be one of those games that is in all the categories but doesn't win.
Right.
It'll win like best cat game and nothing else.
Maybe best indie game. But it will be interesting to see. So, by the way, I did want to say, just because y'all brought up God of War Ragnarok a lot, God of War, the 2018 game, won Game of the Year.
Did win,
2018.
yes.
Yeah. So,
that's
but
not
Sekiro won 2019. So they're fighting.
It's gonna be Elden Ring. It's gonna be
Elden Ring, baby.
This would normally be the time that I do a hilariously punny segue to transition to the game of the week. Unfortunately, I'm feeling a bit rusty, so I'm going to take a break for once and recharge my batteries to and come back stronger next week. So beep, boop, beep, boop. All right, like in our retro game of the week. RoboCop, I'm gonna arrest you.
I didn't like it until the beat boops.
That got you?
RoboCop 2.
Overview.
RoboCop 2 is a movie from the 1990s, more specifically the 1990, and it was a sequel to RoboCop. And I hadn't seen either, although I've known about it my whole life. I probably hadn't seen it because I was but a wee lad when it came out.
Yeah.
So Nolan, I could imagine you saw it just because you watched some older stuff with your dad, with your family, with your parents. And then Kenny, I could certainly imagine you have watched it because around the early 90s you were teenager, fully grown man. It's the age joke again. So have either of you seen the movie?
Okay. Kenny, I know you haven't.
I have, not since I was a child, and I was a child.
Okay.
And I don't know if I saw the second one. I probably did at some point, but RoboCop was sort of, in its moment, a kind of big thing. And him being an action hero-y robot character, obviously I was into him, but at the amount of into you can be as a child.
I have never seen it. I was more of a Blade Runner guy, and to me they're similar categories, and I've never seen any of them. I like you, Dustin, I know of them but very loosely, so I don't know if people love this movie or think it's a meme. You know what I mean?
Kenny says he's a fan and said he was a fan on the first play, but then got called out in the comments for not knowing that nuke was a street drug and not a world-ending bomb, which changes the game and the movie
a few things
entirely. Wait, Nolan.
He just found out.
Nolan?
No, I didn't know that.
Wait, you thought you were gathering nukes, bombs
Yes.
the entire time?
Yes, I'm a robot cop.
Guys!
That's not that crazy.
Read your video game manual.
No.
It's a terrible game to. It's a it's a terrible name. Sorry, Freudian. It's a terrible name to give to a street drug. You shouldn't do that. And in my defense, first plays are completely blind, and I haven't consumed RoboCop content since I was a wee little child. But I'm
That's
up to
fair.
speed on what nuke is now, unlike Nolan.
No, it's still a bomb as far as I'm concerned.
Like companies
It's the bomb.
did in the 90s, this is a licensed product that came out on a lot of different consoles. We played the one on Nintendo Entertainment System, and it is a platform shooter. So imagine you are running typically from left to right, and you are jumping on platforms, avoiding pits or
Imagine
water.
Mega Man.
Reminds you of Mega Man, okay. And instead of a blaster on your hand like the young boy Mega Man has, you've got a gun. I'm sure there's a specific kind of gun or name for it for hardcore RoboCop fans like Kenny, but really it's just a handgun that you're using to shoot perps or punch perps with your open fist while you are collecting nuke throughout the city.
So you can do the drugs yourself.
Nope. No, he's a robot, so I don't think it would do anything for him. Maybe he's got a compartment that destroys it, so he does it, and then it eliminates it.
It burns it up. Yeah.
He's not all robot. That's the whole point. And
Which parts are robot? Privates?
I mean, I'll let you Google that later.
Google it right now.
I mean, his face, he's got a head at least, because when you hit the game over screen, which I may have done once or twice, you can see his fleshy head that is connected. But that's about it. Like, he's connected to a lot of, like, machinery. Yeah. His body's messed up. I don't know the history there. Kenny probably does, since he's a huge RoboCop fan. But before I tell you the story, I do want to point out that this was developed and published by Ocean Software, at least for a lot of the consoles, which, as a reminder, was the same company that developed the Jurassic Park that we loved on this show.
And and several other like movie games. They did Top Gun, like Miami Vice, Batman, stuff like that.
So I'll give you the story straight from the manual, which again I read and referenced many times this week.
I don't need it.
Probably won't read the entire thing, but I will read a little bit of it for your sake, and so that you at least know that nuke is not a world-ending bomb.
Okay.
It's a bad scene. RoboCop is back in old Detroit, where things have gone from bad to worse. The cops are on strike, and no wonder this whole burg is going bankrupt, forced into liquidation by OCP, the corrupt mega corporation that took over just a couple of years ago. And of course, crime is soaring to stratospheric levels. Can you say the word anarchy?
Anarchy.
Nice.
Anarchy.
But the greatest threat of all is the new and deadly chemical codenamed nuke, recently developed by one of old Detroit's most powerful crime barons, Kane. Standing alone against Kane and his cronies, you must find their deadly chemical factory, destroying all the nuke you find along the way.
It sounds like it'd be a good movie, yeah. Better than a game.
I do want to point out one other thing that probably you don't know.
What?
RoboCop 2 is not just the number because it is the second movie or second game. RoboCop 2 is actually a new RoboCop prototype that you face.
2.0?
Yeah. It's a character. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Gameplay.
Right off the bat, you are introduced to the physics of this platformer. So when I say physics, I don't really know what I mean, other than think of any ice stage in any platformer at this time where you jump on the ground or you try to start running on the ground and it's slippery and it affects your momentum and it affects your stopping power. But that's the entire game.
What do you mean? The movement was slippery for you?
I mean, you have to charge up your run. Like, it's kind of like Mario in where you, like, when you start running, you have to speed up a little bit. But in Mario, it takes 0.2 seconds. In this game, it takes 2 seconds. But then you've got this slippery moment. Why is it like that? Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. So I don't know if I've referenced yet, but the manual that I read this week.
Stop.
Burn the manual.
It blames it on RoboCop's massive weight. Okay, so it says that the reason why he moves like that is because you have to try to control his inertia.
Okay, so
That's
what happened?
the dumbest thing.
What happened was
Yes, this is correct,
they
Nolan,
developed this game, play tested it for the first time, and were like, "Oh my god, we really messed up the movement." And somebody was like, "Let's not fix it. Let's come up with a lore reason why it's like that."
Yeah, they're like,
call
hey,
it a day, move on.
Ain't he a robot? He's heavy, right? Can we just leave it?
They looked at each other and were like, "Yeah."
They're like,
I
but it
guess.
doesn't happen in the movies. Well, it's a video game. Leave it.
Dude.
It's not how physics would work either.
Exactly. He would be slower. He would go bong, bong.
Okay, so
bong.
like imagine the real life RoboCop
Sure.
sliding around
Terrifying.
the streets of Detroit like that.
Terrifying.
Like, what if he was just not able to stop himself, just
running into buildings.
Like,
into
like
cars.
not even buildings. Old ladies he's trying to help.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
rolling
Just
him over.
crush
Sorry.
Him.
That's absurd. And I had to point it out first. We had to talk about it first because it's all that. I mean, like I said, it's not isolated to one part of the game or one stage. That's just how you move. And so getting used to it doesn't happen. You don't get used to it. It's awful.
Yeah, it's the first thing you notice. And that whole weird momentum piece that you talked about translates into your jumps as well. Which, like, that's not always the case. Sometimes jumps kind of have their own, like, physics.
Dude, it's so bad,
If you're not moving quickly before you get to a place to jump, you're just going to do the tiniest little jump in the whole world and jump into a piece of water that doesn't make sense as to why it's there, just a hole in the ground. And
if you're not full
and
speed,
you're going to do
that
this
happens.
multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And so you're going to have to scoot back,
But you can't.
speed up,
The screen
and go, and then you've got all this momentum, so you're going to have to just react to that based on whatever's coming up next. It's a lot.
But Kenny, what do you do if you've got a gap in front of you, but you've advanced the screen so much that you don't have enough platform space to get a run going?
what
do you do?
Get your best run going and die.
You fall.
You die.
Can you do that? You know how in Mario you can, like, on a small piece of land, if you're good enough, you can run back and forth to be able to get the P speed? Can you do that here? Can you
I don't know.
run
I
back
doubt
and
it.
forth?
I doubt it.
I don't think so, but it'd be funny.
So yes, the movement is the most notable thing, and that's why we talk about it here at the very beginning of the gameplay section, because it is half of the battle here.
Right, it's not even enemies.
The other half is getting a high enough percentage, and so I'll talk about that. So you are presented with 13 expertly crafted platforming levels as you go through this game.
Yeah.
And they are, various cityscapes, sewerscapes, warehousescapes, and you are moving across them with this slippery momentum, taking out enemies, and collecting nuke. That is and trying to survive. Those are the 2 or 3 things that you're doing on each and every stage. However, it's not just about getting to the flag at the end of the stage. It's not just about getting to the boss. There's not a boss at the end of each stage. There's not a flag either. It's about collecting enough nuke and arresting, not eliminating or killing, arresting enough of the bad guys on each level. And you have to hit a 60% threshold of both nuke collected and bad guys arrested, 60% of both of those by the end of the level in order to pass on to the next level. And if you do not, you repeat the same stage.
If that sounds annoying to you, yep, you're right. That's not how you design a game ever.
I like the premise of having to arrest some people. I feel like that works in a game like this. It's kind of nice to it's kind of nice to not feel like you just have to shoot everything you see. I don't think they implemented it super well, and it definitely wasn't explained super well, and so it took a little while to get used to that mechanic. The concept is great, though. I think it works, but we are trained that when stuff jumps out at you, you shoot it.
Oh, yeah.
And the only real difference, especially when you're talking villains, is they had like a little like flash on the screen, and that was all that told you need to go arrest this person instead of shoot them. Now, later, you're also collecting hostages. Those tend to be a little bit more obvious. There's someone that's like in obvious peril, or they're shaking their arms, or they're like tied up and waiting for you. Those were a lot easier to figure out. But the capturing bad guys, I had a little bit of a hard time even figuring out when I was supposed to do it. And to some degree, almost had a harder time with that piece than with collecting nuke, at least the nuke that you can find easily.
I was going to say, that's not even... Another major problem is that some of the nuke you can't even get.
Well,
like
some you can't get because you have to choose, am I going on the upper platform or the lower platform? So and then the screen scrolls with you and you can't scroll back, so you're going to miss some. But then... It's even on the first stage.
The first one.
You cannot beat it without finding the secret elevator that
manhole cover, yeah.
2 tiles worth of space that you're not going to notice.
Yeah, Mario gave us a pipe. Clearly you go down. RoboCop gave us nothing. You just have to guess.
Yeah, when we say secret, we mean top secret.
Top secret classified.
You're going to learn it from somebody else who's already known where it is. Or I was going to say look it up on the internet, but that didn't happen in 1990. Or stumble across it, or else literally have to like try every location. There is no visual indication whatsoever at all that you should be able to like go down to the secret area.
And all of these things that we're saying, all of these things prevent most players from getting past the first stage. That's not fun.
Yeah.
What?
It's not fun. It's not good game design. To gate level progression behind
it's a platformer,
getting a certain amount of percent on 2 different things
that they don't explain.
That they don't explain, and one of them's not even killing the baddies. That makes it a little bit easier. It's arresting, and it doesn't teach you that. I still don't know. Kenny was talking about flashing screens or this or that. I don't even know. Like, there are some enemies that you cannot arrest, and some that you can, and I think to arrest them, you have to punch them or touch them without shooting them. But if you do that...
you got to run up and touch them.
But if you do that to other enemies that can't be arrested, they just start mowing you down and taking away your health. It's not a good idea. And then to try to soften the blow, they allow you, and some people thought this is what that made it a little bit better because after the first stage they did it, but it's not just after the first stage. It's really they allow it 2 times in your gameplay session. 2 times in your session, they will give you a bonus stage if you fail. So Kenny was able to do this. I don't think he passed it. Did you pass it in your first play?
No,
Kenny?
the bonus stage didn't help me to still pass. So I went through the first stage, obviously didn't know what I was doing because blind first play, failed to meet those cryptic objectives, obviously. So got this like redemption bonus stage, did fairly well on the redemption bonus stage, actually. I mean, better than I would have expected for me. It wasn't like perfect, but it wasn't like I just like whiffed it. And even that wasn't enough to get me past thresholds, and so it just sent me back to the first level to redo it all again, despite that handhold. It was bad.
I'm just thinking, like, if you have to code in a grace stage in order to help you beat the first level, go back to the drawing board. Straight up. You've failed. This is a platformer, which means, especially, what year did this come out? 90?
1990.
In 1990, that meant you go right, you shoot or use whatever you have to kill the enemies, and you go to the next stage. That's all that meant. Yes, they had different things, collectibles, secret stages, blah, 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 blah. You could do that, but you can't break that basic rule. And this one, they tried to be, I'm not even going to call it creative. I don't know what they were trying, but it sucks.
I still don't think the problem was with the idea. The concept of doing some different things totally works for me. The implementation is what's the problem. Capturing prisoners instead of shooting them, making you pay attention to what's on the screen and think a little bit, absolutely could be a great mechanic. A bonus level at the end, however you want, not for like redemption's sake, but to, was a kind of fun little mini game. There's ways they could have implemented that. Finding secret stuff is great. We talk all the time about I want good exploration in my game, and I want to find bonuses, and I want to be rewarded for exploring. They were trying to do that. They just did it really, really poorly.
You want to know what else I really love? Level design is very, very important for me and for platformers in general. And I'm not even going to try to break down level design flaws here because there are plenty, but one of the worst ones, I love being on a platform at the top that randomly has a gap in it where you fall, but you wouldn't know that because it's the same color as the platform you're standing on. There's no indication that the bridge is out. Let's call it a bridge. It's just blue, and then there's a gap and you fall. What is that? That's awful.
Or you could call it creative level design.
Yeah, it's creative.
We mentioned, but I don't know. We didn't talk about the bonus stages. We kind of just zoomed past that. It changes up the gameplay tremendously. I want you to
completely.
I want you to imagine Sunset Riders.
Yeah, it's arcade style. I was gonna go there.
It's first person NES style shooter.
And that's not what Sunset Rider is fully, but the bonus stage on Sunset Rider has a couple of saloons in front of you, and these villains pop out in windows and in different spaces, and you're to shoot those, but not shoot the innocent people. It's something along those lines. However, for some reason, they thought, this slippery mechanic is so good with the movement on the platformers. Let's maintain that for the shooting reticle on the bonus stages. So you don't have accurate movement on the reticle. You still have the slip.
That's why I know it was a design flaw that they didn't feel like fixing, because that means the physics itself in terms of movement is broken.
It was very hard to shoot accurately. I literally, and I complained about this in the first play, I literally hurt my thumbs trying to get through one mini stage, and I've got a lifetime of gamer thumbs that shouldn't happen. I literally was in pain by the time I finished that first stage trying to force getting the shots that I needed, because it's so hard to do.
Do y'all like the sliding puzzle bonus stage?
I never got a sliding puzzle.
Oh, I didn't either, but I saw that there is.
I don't know if it was on the NES.
It was.
Okay.
It's those sliding puzzle games where it's like a 3x3 game. One of the slots is empty, but you have to make the picture. And in this case, it's RoboCop's face. And it's just why? Again, that doesn't belong.
I think Dustin may be right. I think it may have been another version of the game.
I'm pretty sure it's in the
regardless.
But that's about they say is that's about his recalibration. That's how he's getting his memories. I don't know. It's really
how they justify everything.
Right. They have at least they've got a reason. At least they've
got lore reasons.
Don't give them that.
And they did try and sort of follow the story from the movie. But I don't know.
Who cares? Stop it.
Let's talk some other mechanics.
No.
Because there are a few other things you can pick up. You can pick up more energy for yourself, which is something to point out. That's important. Your life going down. I feel like occasionally, and it never lasted very long, but it felt like you could pick up a thing that did spread on your gun. I don't know if you guys ever got to the point
It's
of
like a
seeing that, but
three-way
it wasn't like a long term.
T-shaped spread, yes.
You've got the
Yeah.
You've got a W circle that you can pick up and
Right.
it can upgrade your weapon. You can either get a T
Your weapon.
shot, which fires up, down, and forward at the same time. You can
Yep.
get a 3-way shot. You can get a super that destroys everything in your path, or you can get an armor-piercing bullet that destroys robots with a single shot.
But there's not a lot of those. They're
No.
not labeled very obviously. You don't have many like strategic choices about them, and they don't last very long. So they're kind of just like flavor on top of things that are going on. We should talk about bosses though, because I know Nolan or Dustin, you said like not a boss at the end of every stage.
I didn't get to a
and
boss.
there's not. You don't get many of them at all, but you do get a boss at the end of the game.
Yeah, there's one boss
I don't
in the
know if-
game. Well, I mean, not bosses. Don't say
Is it
bosses
RoboCop
as in
2.0?
plural. Yes,
Well,
it's
no, I
RoboCop
can say
2.
bosses
Well-
because I think Nolan may not realize that this is how it if he didn't see this. But you fight the in-game boss and beat it. Then you fight it a second time and have to beat it.
RoboCop 2 too?
And then you fight it a third time
What?
and have to beat it. You have to beat the same boss. They didn't scatter that boss over a bunch of different stages or change anything about it. It's just the boss fight three times in a row. And you're not getting extra health or anything.
Do you have to arrest
beat
him?
it
Is that why it
three
makes-
times in a row?
No, he has I think different amounts of armor, and he uses different weaponry with each of them. But
okay.
besides, it's the same boss
Still.
3 times in a row. The only
Yeah,
boss
it's
in the
slightly
game.
different mechanics. So you got to dodge different stuff. And you say no other bosses. You do fight Kane at one point. He's like a little mini boss. So there's a couple moments, but it's not like bosses or like consistent bosses are a part of this game's design. It's more like the movie where the climax happens and that's where the big action throwdown happens between these robots. But like that doesn't translate well to a game.
I'm not done being pissed about the stage design. You can't tell what you can stand on and what you can't. And that's a big
Which is so
problem.
bad.
Like, you can't. They didn't do any sort of shading or coloring to differentiate a background or a non-standable platformer design from one you can. And literally, the majority of my deaths in this game were due to that fact. And I can't forgive that. I've said this so many times. It's a platformer. You've made all the wrong choices.
And as you get further into the game, that
It
gets
gets worse.
even crazier.
I know.
Yeah, you get platforms that you have to land on that are moving in weird erratic patterns or are moving so hyper fast that you have to somehow time your ability to do a jump with acceleration and still land on it, even when this thing is moving at like Mach speed. There's stuff that like grabs you and picks you up and moves you. There's things you have to dodge, and it's absolutely insane. And not just insane on like how they designed it, but insane to think that someone would be able to
do
beat
it.
it at
Yeah.
least without like just playing the game on repeat and like crushing your way through, learning all of those things by trial and error,
They
which we always complain about.
They expected the actual RoboCop to play this game with reflexes.
But before we conclude this section, I'm serious about this. I know it'd be funny to joke and be like, "There's nothing." I want us each to say one nice
thing
thing,
about
good
the game.
thing, true thing about this game or the gaming experience with this game this week, and it has to be different from one another. So we have to come up with 3 as a group. 3 good things about this game, because we've spent the majority of the time, rightfully so, bashing this, and it can be something we've already said, but it needs to be 3. Who
I feel
wants
like
to start?
Kenny should start because he usually plays devil's advocate, so he probably already has something.
Kenny's got a list.
Yeah,
Like-
I could also go last because I think I actually like this game more than you guys do. I mean, I know I do.
I would never use
Yeah.
that terminology to talk about this game.
Just, I mean, relative to the way you guys are talking about it, I feel like you're looking at I don't know. I was going to say a turd, but that seems classless, so I
you said
decided
So
not
you
to
won't
say it.
okay.
And then I said it anyways because I was stumped and you were
Classless.
going to judge me for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
So-
good point. You go last. You have a few things.
I'll go last.
Nolan will go, then I'll go.
it made me appreciate. It made me appreciate.
I need authenticity here.
Good NES games, because you have to have turd games. Like, you have to have that in the mix, because there were so many games that came out. So it just, if nothing else, it made me go, wow, other games are really good.
Kenny, what's a backhanded compliment?
That?
What do you mean?
Okay.
That wasn't even a backhanded compliment. That was a backhanded
roast.
Unclement.
Dustin, I have nothing.
Okay.
I can't.
I've got something.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do, and I will say this, and I'll die by this.
Okay.
Everything in this game is learnable, meaning everything has a pattern. The gap that is poorly illustrated on the screen is always going to be there. So once you know it's there, you can avoid it every time. Like, everything has a predictable pattern. You can learn it. Caveat, you just won't have any desire to do so. So I think if you spent the time, you could play this game.
Nice thing,
you could play this game perfectly. Everything is learnable. That's what I would say. Kenny?
That's not a nice thing. Mine wasn't nice.
I'll repeat some of the things I've already said. Some of the stuff they tried to do to be creative, I feel like were interesting choices to make in a video game. I truly.
Kenny, what's a backhanded compliment?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I really think that the whole concept of rescuing. Here's the thing: you guys are such hypocrites. You'll look at a game like GoldenEye and be like, "Oh, best game ever." You got to rescue hostages. Like, you can't just be like, "Oh, that's a terrible mechanic," because it was poorly
it's the
done
same
here.
Thing here. You're right. It's
Yeah.
the exact same
No,
thing.
you see things. You're knocking so many things, and what you're knocking is that this game didn't execute on what it tried to do. Not that it missed vision. The mini game is an interesting concept. The big boss, and even in sequence, though it was too done, and you should have spread it out or had more differences, could have been kind of interesting. He seemed like a rewarding enemy. The fact that you have to do exploration, like, there's tons of stuff here that could be really interesting, and if you had different people working on it that cared more about the game stuff or were more capable game developers, I actually think this could have been a very fun game. Like, I'll go that far. It wasn't created well. So even though there's a lot of potential, and there is a lot of potential here, it was not executed
Kenny,
on.
you know that
and
this
that's
is,
the problem.
You know this is simply one of those instances where there's a movie and they were like, make game, go. You know that.
Absolutely.
You
But
know
there's
the
no
developers
reason
didn't care.
those people doing that couldn't have done it with more skill and finesse, and we could have ended up with a banger.
Like GoldenEye.
Like a nuke.
Aged.
It looks like Microsoft Paint. I mean, it does, and that goes back to my complaint earlier about the platforms not being apparent. It's just harsh. It's a harsh color palette. And you know what it is? It's the color palette that's like the top one in MS Paint. The one that doesn't have like different shades of the color. It's just like hot pink, bright red, bright blue, and black and white. And that's your color palette here. And it's extremely harsh to look at, and it's impossible to interact with as a platformer. It's the ugliest game I've ever looked at, and I'm not exaggerating.
Do you remember?
I mean, you are
you
exaggerating.
Yeah, he might be exaggerating just a little bit, but do you remember the word art? It's the color palette and
Yes.
word art. Like,
dude. Yes, it is.
I don't understand their decision for color, because it's not authentic colors to like what a city should look like.
The movie certainly doesn't look bright neon. Like, it's probably gritty, right, Kenny?
Yeah, I think
like it's.
Yeah, Kenny, 8-year-old Kenny, like.
I'm an expert in RoboCop. You can ask me questions if you want.
I
I
did.
mean, it's Detroit. It's like it's not a neon
Right.
hurt your eyes. I don't know what they were going for, but the color choices are offensive.
Yes.
Offensive is strong. It's bad. I'll agree it's bad. But no, I think there's worse offenses than this. They tried. You look at the screens. They filled them with lots of elements of things going on, of
Congrats.
stuff that's trying to set atmosphere. It's not boring. It's certainly poorly laid out, like, as platforms. And yes, the color scheme isn't good. It looks real kind of like early DOSy, and like it's completely uninspired. But you could tell that they were at least trying. It's not like it's empty screens or like one screen that they just use for the whole game. I think we've seen visually much worse stuff.
And
but
by
it's
atmosphere,
not good.
you mean horrific acid trip.
It's a good.
Well, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm about to start getting mad at Kenny.
I am too. Quit.
Why?
He didn't create this game, but defending it is
I know.
unacceptable. Because
No, I think you guys are trying to make this a worse game than it is.
we're not
for no
trying to
reason.
do anything.
I'm not
I've given it
trying.
more credit than it deserves.
Kenny, you know this.
Kenny,
You're playing your role, and you should continue.
I'm not.
He is playing his role, but he's not playing. Like, this is truly what he is and what he thinks, and I don't understand why. Because no one is going to look.
I'll
at
tell
this
you
and
why.
say,
I'll tell you
it's
why.
good.
He likes
There
when
are tons of people.
there is not tons of people. Don't. He's
that was
saying
a full
this, Dustin.
sentence.
He likes he likes when things break the mold conventions, and so he's like platformer that does something really stupid. I'm in.
But then he's like,
That's not the
then
case.
he's like, hey, you collect hostages. You do that in other games like GoldenEye. You shoot things. You do that in other games like Call of Duty. So, like, what's the problem here? Acting like like you jump in this game, you know, where you also jump in Mario. So, like, what is the problem? He's making these, like, equivalences.
You're right.
See?
I don't.
No, you're right about the fact that all of those things, at least to some degree, show that those as concepts aren't bad concepts. We agree that this game was poorly executed and that it's not a good game. But, like, there's a difference between we missed it versus, like, worst game of all time, or, like, we didn't even try. Or, I don't know.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I didn't try and I gave up because it is the worst game of all time. Like, if the first stage is gated by all those things that we said, you're not going to have an ounce of fun.
Well,
and that's what games are for.
But it's not a game that gets better with the progression of stages.
I know. That's my point.
I actually think it gets worse the further you get into it. Not because of... No, because you were right, Dustin. You learn those things, and so, like, you're starting to feel like, okay, despite some of the hiccups, like, I could make this game good. But then on top of that, it becomes this, like, impossible. To beat, like, NES game of, like, difficulty with all of those other flaws at the same time. And that gets worse, not better, as you get further into the game.
The sound is the only thing that is not abysmal here. I don't think the sound is... I think there are a few decent tracks. That's as high as I give it. Like,
yeah.
We've had other games where it's piercing.
It's not Pickle
horrid.
Wars.
This music wasn't the thing that was distracting or bad here. In fact, some versions of the game were given actual audio samples from the film, like of the gunshot or RoboCop stepping, through the streets, and they used those.
Interesting.
And so I think that's kind of a fun tidbit. But sound-wise, we typically talk about that when it comes to age. I think that's fine. I wouldn't listen to it outside of the game, but that wasn't the thing that was unforgivable here.
While we're talking about sound, can we talk about that load screen, that like start screen? Because it's so funny. You got RoboCop.
He don't run out of ammo.
Yeah, and it's actually a kind of good visual of him. And he's got this gun.
It's not bad.
And he's just shooting it like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't stop. He's just like, bah, 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 bah,
it's so annoying if you let it go.
It's a lot, and it's a lot, but I don't know. It felt kind of hyped to me.
Kenny trying to talk over that in the first play. I was like, just hit start.
It was so much.
I'm with you. It sounds like an NES game that just has a basic NES sound. There's nothing remarkable to point out. It's just there. Not as bad as visuals, not as bad as gameplay. I agree.
And then we typically bring up the fact that when you've got a game that's based off of an IP, like a movie or something else, that was only popular in a particular time of the world, that contributes to its aging. And so when a movie comes out in the 90s and stays in the 90s and was only good kind of in the 90s, then that I think it makes it even more difficult of a game for people to want to play or enjoy today.
Yeah. But what we've said before is still true also, where if the game, like Lion King, let's say, is super solid and fun, it doesn't matter, right?
But Lion King is also still a modern day thing because...
Yeah, but they could remake RoboCop, and then this becomes relevant. You know,
sure, but they haven't and won't.
I don't know if they won't. Might. They remake everything nowadays. It's just, do we need it? No.
It's probably going to be a
Nolan's
Broadway
right, though.
musical.
Yeah, Nolan's right that it didn't enter the like cultural zeitgeist like other big games. Like they made other games that are old and still feel dated, even though the IP they're based on got super popular. Like I'm pretty sure there was a Die Hard NES game.
Yeah,
and that would still appeal to people today because that's generally something everybody knows. If you were around for RoboCop, you might have a fondness for it, like I do, even though, again, it was just like a little slice and a blip. But, like, the stuff you're going to appreciate. But for anybody new, it's just going to be like, oh, there's just this hero, and I don't care. He's a policeman, and he's a cop and a robot.
And he's ugly and looks stupid.
It is a series of video games because the movie was a series of movies. You've got the original RoboCop that was for arcade and early home consoles in 1988. You've got RoboCop, which is RoboCop is supposed, like, I think is a better game than this.
If it's arcade, yeah.
RoboCop 3 was released for the Super Nintendo in 1991.
Same devs?
Good question. I don't know.
Probably.
Don't know.
And then
they're fairly different games from each other, though.
If you want a copy of this game for your NES, you are going to be spending $19 to get it used, or $410 to get it new.
Why?
Wow.
Worth every penny.
Because I think it's one of those so
rare.
bad it's good. Not it's good. It's just everyone loves to hate. I don't know.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. We'll begin with Nolan because I think his answer is most obvious. Then we'll move from there.
It is unplayable trash, and there's no point to it. I mean, it's not even one of those that's like Yo-Noid, where it's a meme and it actually might make you laugh really hard if you played it a little bit or are familiar with it. Don't Google it. Don't play it. Don't watch the movie. It's crushed all desire for me to go watch the movie. It did the opposite of what they wanted. They wanted people to like go watch the movie after playing the game. I actually will never watch RoboCop because I've played this. Just despite them. It's trash. It's not a game. Bye.
So no?
Oh, I give it New Game Plus.
No, you don't.
No, of course
not. Kenny, you don't either, but I'll let you go now just so that people might think for a second that you would. There's no way. I'll tell you this. There's no way. I know that Kenny is unique, but there's no way. There's no way that he would give this New Game Plus status.
Yeah, no, Dustin is correct. This is not a New Game Plus game. Like, you shouldn't... You've got so many good old video games that you can play. This is not one of those. However... Nope. Yeah, there's 100 howevers.
Just stop there.
Everyone's acting like this is the worst game we've ever played, or that it's unplayable, or that you can't learn it, or that everything they've done is a bad decision. And that's just completely unfair. This is a bad video game, but a sort of fine video game with a little bit of potential, and it could have been fine. And if you want to take the time to learn it and get used to some of the wonky mechanics and, like... You could have fun playing this game if you care to, but you probably shouldn't care to. So yes, no new game plus. I don't think it's nearly as bad as everybody's making it out to be. That's all.
It is.
Okay, which leaves it up to me. There are some bad games that we played that I look back on with fondness. They're bad games, but I look on the game or the episode with fondness. I'm talking about James Pond. I'm talking about Rex Ronan, the dentist. I'm talking about like even Athena, or to some degree Arrow the Acrobat, although that one was a little bit painful. And then there are some games that we played that are some of the worst games of all time, that the experience wasn't enjoyable in the slightest, that I don't look back on with fondness and that I would rather forget. I'm talking about Wordtress. I'm talking about Captain Planet kind of recently. Like, those are some of the worst games we played. Wizard of Oz is another one. This is in that list. This is one of the worst games we played. I don't know if I can say it's the worst, but I agree with Nolan. Easily one of the worst 5, top or lowest 5. It is absolute garbage. This game falls in one of the worst, in the category of one of the worst games we played on the show, and will always remain there. Disagree hard with Kenny. You cannot find fun here. You cannot, and you will not find fun here, because it is a bad game from start to end. Do not play this game. Meaning
completely wrong, but it's okay.
RoboCop 2 is not New Game Plus certified.
Of course not.
But what did you think? On our YouTube poll, 11% said it's worth playing today.
Trolls.
28% said no, go play something else.
Yeah.
And 62% have never played it before.
God bless them. Keep it that way. You're one of the lucky majority.
And then we had many in our community that played along with us this week, unfortunately.
Why did y'all do that?
Many wrote in.
Sorry.
Just a few of them gave actual commentary, like Hey
Okay.
Brother 45. He said, since this is a game based on a movie, a bad movie at that, I assumed this game would be terrible. I was wrong. It was actually complete garbage. The movement is very clunky, and it felt like RoboCop was on ice skates on the ground, and it felt too heavy in the air. In the very first level, I had to look up a guide just to figure out where the nuke pieces were to pass the stage. The animations and graphics are the only thing that make this game playable. No NGP from me.
Garbage is a harsh word, but Dustin used it, I used it, and Hey Brother just used it. And I don't call games garbage unless I truly think it's offensive or unplayable, and that's this case. The devs think that. Do you know if you ask the devs of this game, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, no one likes that game."
Carlisle said, if you saw screenshots or video of this game, you might think it looks fine. The moment you pick up the controller, you will realize that you fell for it. You fool. You absolute buffoon. It's not just that it controls like garbage. It's that the stage visuals often blend background and foreground, and many objects are hidden in side areas with no hints to their existence. That the game rubs in your failures with punishment stages and then forces you to replay them? I'd ask who the thought this was a good idea. Then I remember I saw Data East as the developers. They developed the arcade version, by the way.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so you had a few people like those two that gave true commentary, and then most others gave meme commentary. Zach said no, and I even have a copy of the game. Proto Dad said don't. Super Gamer Guy said, so this is what Soulja Boy meant when he cranked that RoboCop. Way Out Gaming.
What?
Way Out Gaming said, I'm still recovering my
that's
mental
good.
sanity from Balls 3D, so excuse my inability to play this alpha version of Cyberpunk 2077 this week.
Okay, Balls was better.
Sin Doctor said,
No, Balls was worse.
No.
Easy.
Sin Doctor said, this game is dreadful, maybe the worst yet?
Yeah. Sure.
No.
Can you stop?
You keep bringing up. Okay, gun to your head. You would play this game instead of Captain Planet? Because you can't say that with a straight face.
No.
No, I would not. I
You
would play
said that
Captain
wrong.
Planet. Right. I would play Captain Planet 10 times before I would play RoboCop 2 because I
think
would
I would
actually be
too.
able to play a
No.
lot more and a lot further.
I would play 10 hours of this game to a half hour of RoboCop.
New Patreon goal. New
Dude,
Patreon
yeah.
goal. 10-hour
Hold him
live
to it.
stream of Kenny playing RoboCop 2. Yes.
2 people watching.
If you spend 10 hours playing Captain Planet,
I've got one
there's
more.
so many worse games that we've played.
I've got one more commentary. It's from the person that added this to the Retro Master list.
Is it an apology?
Get out.
The BFG said, "You know how when you were a kid, you only own a handful of games." Hope y'all
Yes,
feel bad
I
now.
do.
Dude,
You have no
had
control
this.
over which titles you get, and all your games become your favorites. Well, RoboCop 2 was one of my favorite games as a kid. I picked it back up this week for the first time in decades. I played through a few stages until reaching a point where I was unable to proceed because I could not find enough nuke, and the game forced me to replay the same stage repeatedly. That was enough for me. I won't go on into the many issues that plague this title, as others have covered it extensively. Instead, I'll focus on its positives. The main character has good sprite work and animations. The shooting range is fun.
He does.
And that's about it. Honestly, I would have enjoyed myself more if the entire game was comprised of the shooting range stages. Child me loved RoboCop 2. Adult me, not so much. Don't play this game and don't watch the movie. They are both bad.
I'm mad at you for putting this on the list, but I suppose it had to happen.
Don't play this game, but don't believe the hype, even though we're fishing for memes. It's
Who's
bad, but
fishing,
not the
brother?
worst.
Kenny, if anyone's fishing, it's you to act like this has any kind of semblance of validity here.
I feel like you guys decided it was bad before you even played it.
No, dude.
Kenny, our whole community thought it was
You're the
garbage.
odd one
You're
out
the one
here.
that thinks
I'm
it's
okay.
okay.
No, it's a bad game.
Kenny-
We're on the same page.
Kenny lives his life in this world where he thinks away, and if everyone else thinks differently, they're the crazy ones.
No, that's not the case at all.
He wants us to not hate it so much for some reason.
It's time to put Kenny's favorite game, RoboCop
Yeah.
2, aside.
Thanks.
And we are randomly selecting again what game we are going to be playing for the week of Thanksgiving here in the States.
Yeah,
we need
that's
a good
big.
one. The last two have been Mario and Wario and RoboCop 2.
Oh yeah, it needs to be solid.
Randomizing now. We are going to, how do I slowly reveal this? We are going to be playing a game from 1992.
RoboCop.
All right.
And it is for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are in the same era and on the same console. And
I love that console and era.
it is a platforming video game.
Great. That could be really, really
Wonderful.
good or awful.
And I'll give you one other thing before I reveal this. We are still a robot.
It's not RoboCop 3, so that means it must be the other, which is a good sign.
That was developed by Capcom. We
Oh,
have
baby.
played a few others of
But which
the
one?
games.
But which
On-
one?
Is this Nolan's fault?
We are playing for the next 7 days Mega Man 5.
He talked about
Fine.
Mega Man earlier. Nolan, you jinxed us back into this title.
I'm
love
glad
it.
I jinxed it. Okay. It's not the same title. 5 is interesting. We skipped 4. We played
skipped 4. We played
2, 3.
2, 3, and now
Yep.
5. And then we played Mega Man, some other Mega Mans.
The ones that are not classic in the
right.
classic 1 through 11. Holy.
I would be
excited.
shocked for this to get randomized, but there's so many Mega Mans.
Oh my
It's
God.
got to be like a tenth of our Retro Master
Oh,
list,
right, there's
right?
so many.
I'm
Just
shocked
Mega
we don't
Man
get one
games?
every week.
So find a copy of Mega Man 5, play it along with us this week, and then send in your thoughts. And, either we will love it like we did for Mega Man 2, or we'll hate it like we did for Mega Man 3. Listen and find out.
God, don't remind me. You can leave that commentary in our commentary channel on Discord. If you don't know, Discord is a program. If you like video games, you should have it. You can go to NGP. Nope, you can go to discord.gg/newgameplus to get invited.
Want to say a big thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com. We appreciate your ongoing vote of confidence in the retro video game content we create for you, even when we overstate how bad video games are. So thank you to our producers, including Adam, Alex, Marlene, Antonin, Ben, D.H. Bowser, Ellis, Francesca, Gimbin, Jared, Joey, Jordan, J. Robert, Justin, Clint, Knickknack, Corey, Lawe. New this week as a producer, Mal.
Hey.
Maxima, Mr. Lattes, Sajin, Shauna, Subsonic Demon, Thomas, Unbedavable, William, and Zion. And to our directors, we are thankful for you this time of year, and we're going to make a holiday about it. Brojim, Brunk, Daniel, Garlisle, Shane, Super Hypered, and the Tasty Yogurt.
Thank you. You can follow us on our social media at Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play the big one, Mega Man 5. Until then, I'm still not overstating how bad this game is.
I'm still ready for more robot platformers.
I'm Dr. Light.
And this has been New Game Plus.